They've set the standard for precision flying for over 50 years. 6 pilots and 6 Blue Jets, demonstrating the power of commitment and teamwork.
But really, we're not famous for who we are. We're famous for what we're a part of.
The Blue Angel jet paint job, the noise and the smoke, and the name the Blue Angels. It's sort of a magic thing that can happen.
It's phenomenal. It's exciting flying.
Flying that comes together in the demo. 40 minutes of breathtaking, high-energy aerobatics. Training for the demo is difficult. Flying it tests the limits of human endurance.
It never, ever gets old. Nothing beats the demo.
Now's your chance to see the world's most famous air show from the inside, as only this elite team sees it. Get behind the controls for a high-octane, one-of-a-kind experience, the Blue Angels demo.
Good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, your United States Navy Flight Demonstration Squadron takes pleasure in performing for you this, one of our many practice flight demonstrations of the 2004 season.
Over 100 times this year, Lieutenant Justin Otto will greet eager crowds at the start of a Blue Angel practice or performance.
Little drive. Learner ready now.
Moments later, the Blue Jets will take off in fingertip formation and begin 40 minutes of graceful, fast, and high-powered precision flying.
Governor 2933. 2933. Allow check. Solo detach. Solo clear. Smoke off.
The first air show in March wrapped up winter training for the squadron. 3 months of grueling physical and mental work, including over 120 practice flights, are behind them. 8 months of weekend air shows lie ahead.
Here we go.
For the pilots, it's time to reap the rewards of being a Blue Angel, doing what they love.
I think I've always known I wanted to fly jets.
Take it in.
Then when we had a little time off flying, I'll look at the wing, see the blue wing with a gold tip.
265.
It's funny because it's almost larger than life. I couldn't be happier. I'm loving this.
270.
There's nothing that's ever been better than this.
Little drive to level. Looks good.
It's funny because as you become more senior, you get more responsibility, you do some neater things, you think, wow, what could ever top that? I'm pretty confident in this job. I don't know what could ever top this.
But right now, the team has work to do, refining the season's air show. Formations must be flown tighter, maneuvers executed more crisply. The squadron calls the process whittling away at a block of wood.
Bit by bit, piece by piece, you know, it all comes together and culminates at some point in the year. The light bulb comes on and we'll be flying a really tight, solid, procedurally sound, and safe demo.
Ladies and gentlemen, representing your United States Navy and Marine Corps, the Blue Angels 2004.
With the end of winter training, the Blue Angels host an open house at their El Centro Naval Air Facility headquarters.
Excellence and professionalism, Commander Russ Bartlett. Ladies and gentlemen, it is great to be here in El Centro tonight. As you know, we've been out here for about, almost 12 weeks now, doing our winter training. After this, we're on the road every weekend. We'll be out there showing the United States of America a little bit about what the Navy Marine Corps is all about.
Next morning, the team will fly home to training headquarters at the Naval Air Station in Pensacola, Florida. They'll continue working there on the show, or demo, honing their skills and perfecting the timing of the aerial maneuvers.
See you, boss.
Boss Bartlett, in his second and last year as squadron leader, is eager to get started.
Going back to do this through all the shows throughout the show year is going to be phenomenal. Now, I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to that. being able to polish the demo rather than learn it, I can't wait to get started. It's going to be great.
Once back in Pensacola, the polishing begins.
Smoke on. Off brakes now. Burners ready now. All order.
The maneuvers consist of standard fighter techniques every naval aviator learns. However, in the fleet, they're flown above 30,000 feet. During an air show, the action happens at far lower altitudes, sometimes as little as 50 feet above the ground. For the pilots, each day is a test of physical strength and endurance. But flying the demo at 400 miles an hour and less than 2 feet apart also means keeping mentally sharp.
Just to be able to execute it precisely from day to day requires a level of concentration and precision and consistency more than anything I've ever had to produce in anything in my whole life.
Ready, headed. 310. On the left.
You really have to kind of give your own gut check to make sure that you're ready to go and fly in the airplane.
Easing a little power. Let's ease it out.
And not assume that you're just going to get in there and because of how many hundreds of times you've rolled the airplane to the left that you're going to do it right again today and not crash into the ground.
Couple.
What I've learned about this kind of flying, it's just a lesson on concentration like I've never seen.
Ready, hit it.
If I compare now to day one out here, I really see that steep learning curve. I see the improvement I've done. But I look from here and I look at, man, 5-6 weeks from now, we get nervous thinking, man, I got a long way to go.
Adding more power.
You know, when we're flying close all the time in the Diamond, we can't move, and if you do, you're screwing your buddy. So right away, you're just focused, intense.
Flying the squadron's signature 4-plane Diamond formation is a test of aerial teamwork, skill, and trust. The aim is to appear welded together in the sky, a single coordinated unit. But achieving a tight, solid diamond is only one part of the job. Each team for nearly 60 years has made perfecting the demo its ultimate goal. Bill Newman, boss in the late 70s, explains why.
Well, naval aviation is about flight discipline. And the Blue Angels are really about flight discipline because the mission, flying these maneuvers close to the ground so that people can see the planes and see the performance, is hazardous in its very nature.
For you.
When you're flying in close formation, everything has to be perfectly smooth, coordinated, and predictable.
It's Alpha 5 automatic, more power. It's 74, 74 power.
You're always going to have baggage and you always got stuff going on in your life. So you got to put everything else aside and you have to go out there and give it 100%. If it was easy, then we wouldn't need to train like this. It's hard, we understand that. And it's just a mindset thing.
A mindset that began long ago, following the end of World War II. In 1946, with troop downsizing in full swing, finding new recruits to serve in America's armed forces became a challenge. The Navy decided upon a flight demonstration team to anchor its post-war public relations campaign. The brass in Washington selected Lieutenant Commander Roy Voris, a highly respected naval aviator, to get this team off the ground.
Somehow they picked me down at the bottom somewhere to do the job with almost a clean sheet of paper, no instructions other than pick your airplanes and your pilots, your crew out of the training command.
Voris created a program of tight formation maneuvers that use the element of danger to advantage.
When you fly for a crowd, you fly two types of maneuvers. The high risk to impress the aviation types and the lower risk, even though they're beautiful, you know, nice maneuvers for the general public. So you kind of divide the show into two levels of risk.
That show, called a demo, lasted a quick 18 minutes, emphasizing speed and precision flying. It would become the prototype for future Blue Angel performances.
See ya, fellas.
Today's demo runs 40 minutes long, and while made up of over 20 maneuvers, still consists of many of the rolls, loops, reverses, turns, and passes that Voris's team demonstrated.
40 degrees.
Maneuvers have been added and dropped, often to suit the planes the squadron flies.
4.5, 450.
Yet, after nearly 60 years and 8 different aircraft, the basic shape of the demo has seen little change. As in Voris's day, Blue Angel pilots are first and foremost combat-trained aviators, knowledgeable in tactics and weaponry. They fly the same type of aircraft as pilots in the fleet. But as training officer Dave Varner points out, once in the cockpit of a Blue Jet, the similarity ends.
Here we do some things that normally you don't do in an F-18. It requires a lot of hand-eye coordination, a lot of strength, a lot of focus, a lot of SA.
SA is pilot lingo for situational awareness, being alert to everything around you as you fly the jet.
We're behind the cloud setting up the diamond flight.
What's going on in your cockpit, what's going on outside, what's going on with the solo, so you become very in tune to anything that's different. Different is bad when you're trying to put a demo on like this and fly that close to somebody. The only way we can do it is because everything is standard.
Ease it out.
This is more, you know, it's more for a show. We know the whole thing's timed. It's very deliberate, basic flying and how we look and how, you know, if we can read Boss's maneuver and how he flies and his voice inflections.
A little adding power.
I mean, it's very different. It's a totally different type of flying.
Formation flying Blue Angel style requires that pilots operate in unison, thinking and acting as one. It reflects the discipline that's the hallmark of military precision and starts the moment a pilot climbs into the cockpit.
When you get into an airplane to fly an air show, you go into a different mental state. You close out the rest of the world. You don't feel pressure. What you feel is the immediate flight, the immediate maneuver. And you have total concentration, which is the key to all of this flying. Because you live together, you fly together, and you become really one. And you just have to be that way.
Since 1946, trust has been the bond that holds the Blue Angel squadron together. And nowhere is that trust more visible than when they fly the Diamond. It begins at takeoff with 4 planes in fingertip formation. The lead jet, Blue Angel 1, is flanked by Blue Angels 2 and 4 on the right and 3 on the left. At liftoff, number 4 moves into the slot position behind number 1's afterburners. A tight diamond has been the centerpiece of each Blue Angel demo since the team's early days. It's an example of precision flying that demands complete control and allows little margin for error.
You know, that's what the Diamond does. We're as smooth and predictable as possible, and you got to respect the other guys that you're flying that close with, and you build that trust and confidence, you know, over winter training and throughout the season.
389 flash. Go down.
From their trademark diamond formation, the 4 jets transition into other maneuvers. Not all require tight spacing, but as this one with 2 jets flying inverted shows, each has a very real element of risk.
Coming further left. A little We're in a left turn for the Diamond aileron roll.
In the Diamond aileron roll, the jets fly a diamond formation. Then, on command from Boss Bartlett,
ready, headed.
They spin 360 degrees in unison. During parts of the roll, each pilot loses sight of the other jets,
ready, headed.
while flying 360 miles an hour and 4 feet apart. The tuck under break is a rolling maneuver that starts with the squadron in the echelon formation. Each jet is stacked down and back from the number 1 jet at a 45-degree angle. As they approach center point, the planes roll 270 degrees in ripple fashion and separate from the formation. Then, each will rejoin jet number 1 to form up the diamond. Among the hardest maneuvers, one for the real aviation fans, is the line abreast loop.
Wings are level, smoke on.
Here, the lead solo joins the diamond pilots to make a 5-jet formation.
Go Lambeth.
They fly wingtip to wingtip, and then execute a complete loop in unison.
Up we go a little more.
During the entire maneuver, the 4 pilots flanking the number 1 jet look 90 degrees toward it to maintain their position.
Easy power.
Even for experienced pilots, flying in this formation is no easy feat.
It's very difficult just because there's not a whole lot of visual cues as to movement because we're not as tight as we normally are. And you've got all these distractions. Instead of me looking straight kind of through bus and just having sky or ground behind them, I've got all these other planes kind of bobbing up and down on the other side. You're just going inboard, outboard, forward, back, you know, up and down. There's so many different axes, so it's a very difficult maneuver.
If the 4 diamond pilots are precision teamwork in the air, the solo pilots are pure muscle.
The diamond really displays the gracefulness and the real tight formation flying that the Blue Angels are famous for. The solos demonstrate the maximum performance or the raw power of the F-18 that, again, the Blue Angels are known for. We can come in fast, low, being upside down, or knife edge, or peeling into the vertical, going straight up. It's phenomenal. It's exciting flying.
You can actually fly the airplane very aggressively. You get to fly upside down every day. You have a little bit more freedom. It's fun. It is fun.
Some solo maneuvers, like the 300-mile-an-hour low transition, fire up the pilots as well as the crowd.
It's a low flight as I basically take off, transition and getting the gear and the flaps up as I accelerate. And then once I hit the end of the runway, I'll just pitch the nose up to about 65, 70 degrees nose up and climb out, you know, just like a bat out of hell.
Make no mistake, the solo maneuvers are as exacting as the diamond and feature some daring crossing patterns. In the opposing minimum radius turn, jets 5 and 6 fly line abreast at 400 miles an hour, away from the crowd. Over center point, they'll roll their jets 270 degrees and cross. Then they'll circle back around to cross again.
Not only is it somewhat of a cheat to make the 2 airplanes look like we are going to hit, but then we have circles to contend with. You know, we're trying to get the second hit back over center point. That's the most challenging, I think, for my cockpit.
Near the demo's end, the solo and diamond pilots join together in the 6-jet delta formation.
Hand across that up, maneuvering Delta 066.
For spectators and pilots alike, this is precision flying at its best and most memorable.
When I think of the Blue Angels, I think of the Delta. You know, after going through all the solo maneuvers, you check in on the radio for the first time as the entire team. It's fun to have everybody there, and we're all flying, you know, 6 good buddies, and we're flying maneuvers. I mean, who's not going to smile about that and enjoy it?
The demo's last maneuver is the pitch-up break. Flying the Delta, the 6 jets pull up and peel off to the left in succession. Each pilot follows boss, circling back before touching down in single file. The show may be over, but the work on the demo is never done. Every day for 10 months, the squadron strives for greater precision, trying to make each maneuver smoother, steadier, and tighter.
At the end of the season, when we come by the crowd, they're really looking at us going, wow, that is tight. And it will be. It'll be 18 inches, sometimes inside of 18 inches on certain maneuvers.
Each year, there's no shortage of pilots looking for the chance to become a Blue Angel. As applicant officer, opposing solo Craig Olson oversees the process, which includes selecting new members for next year's team.
We're about 2 weeks out from our window where the applicants need to have their forms in, all their application packages in. We're probably about 2.5 months from when they'll actually get selected as finalists. We'll pick from there.
But while the planning for next year's team is running smoothly, this year's team is facing a setback.
You know, I'm not some incredible pilot by all means. You know, I have to always work hard to get where I am. You know, every night, and I'll come back, and be it a good day or a bad day, I'll come back and just go over the day and just be exhausted. And man, this is tough. And I don't know what caused it, but I got pretty sick. Just a very bad cold to the point where I was very dizzy, and it just it affected me naturally like it would anybody else.
But a Blue Angel pilot isn't just anybody else.
All right, over the field, Tuesday the 13th. The weather is 3,500 broken, 7 miles via forecast to remain the same. The altimeter 290.
Barely a month into the show season, Major Shipley, who flies the number 3 jet, is missing from a pre-flight practice briefing. Flight surgeon Gary Mullen did the preliminary diagnosis.
I think he had a common head cold, and he was concerned that him not feeling well may present a safety of flight concern.
It doesn't happen very often where you have guys that are sick. Typically in naval aviation, all the aircrew are pretty healthy people. You know, everybody works out, everybody eats fairly healthy.
The tuck under brake, a little drive.
If somebody needs to stay down, then what happens is the slot pilot, number 4, will fill that spot in the diamond. So if 4 goes down, then it's just 1, 2, and 3 in normal positions. But if 2 or 3 goes down, then 4 will fill that side, and that's what Varmint's been doing.
So it's potential to be a rough one out there. So just like we always do, if we have one bad maneuver, just forget about that and focus on all the other opportunities to succeed.
There are no replacement pilots waiting in the wings. Only if boss is sidelined will the squadron cancel a demo. With Major Shipley staying down, they'll fly short-handed for the time being. But a prolonged absence would have a significant effect on the team.
You're 2 or 3 months into the season to lose a guy, that's tough because you're just starting to click. I mean, you've sweated and bled all through winter training to get the team ready to go on the road. Take a guy and, you know, rip him out of there for whatever reason, and now, boy, you've got issues. You've got all kinds of issues because now you've got Varmint filling in for him, which is different. You've got a guy's voice missing in the check-ins for every maneuver, which is different. And then you've got just the emotional disruption of having a guy on the sidelines, a guy that you trained with, that you selected for the team, and that you want to be there. So it's really hard to get through that.
Boss Bartlett's had prior experience losing a demo pilot. Last year, he lost the team's opposing solo, Len Anderson, who suffered a collapsed lung with 4 weeks left in the season. The squadron had no choice but to go on without him, flying a 5-jet demo for the remainder of the year.
The job we do is very physically demanding, and I think if you thought of it more as like a football team or a basketball team or a hockey team, the Blue Angels are not about the individual, it's about the team. It's going to work. The team keeps rolling, and it has since 1946.
Each team, and down through the history of the Blue Angels, is made up of individuals. And every team has its individual personalities and all the things that go along with that. And what you have to do is overcome that and say, look, we are a team that has to perform precisely together. Our minds and our bodies have to be working exactly together up there in those formation maneuvers. But you really have to put the team and what you're doing above all else.
Grounding a pilot for a head cold may seem overly cautious, but there's a good reason for it.
Right hand turn, 270 heading, depart.
Having a cold is not in and of itself grounding. The big thing I think that grounds people in all of naval aviation is the inability to clear your ears, as we call it. And it's no different than when you feel your ears pop as you drive over a mountain or if you fly in a commercial airplane. If you can't let air into the middle ear, you can't equalize the pressure, and that causes pain and discomfort. And the last thing that our pilots need to have is a distraction while they're flying.
While they're in top physical shape, flying the demo almost daily for 10 months takes a tremendous toll on the body.
Adding a little power.
In the demo, the pilots routinely experience 7, 7.5, and even sometimes 8 Gs. So they're feeling 8 times their body weight. It's pressing them down into the seat. When you're under a lot of G, the blood tries to pool in the lower extremities in the abdomen, and the heart is unable to pump blood into the head and neck.
There's a lot of different effects, but if you could just picture, throwing a refrigerator on your lap and sitting there in the chair, that's the kind of weight that you feel, when you're going around those corners. It's 7 times your body weight. You can't hardly, you can turn your head, but it's very, very difficult.
Difficult to say the least. 7 Gs is nearly twice what the average person could tolerate before blacking out.
30 degrees.
Pilots also feel the opposite G-force, called negative Gs, which occurs when flying upside down or in a dive. This results in the blood rushing to the head and creating an overall sense of weightlessness. Blue Angel pilots endure these positive and negative G-forces repeatedly during a demo.
It's easy to sit here and watch the jets fly overhead, and it looks fairly graceful, and the smoke's going and all that stuff. But you don't realize how hard the pilot inside that jet is working to, number one, keep the jet flying the way it should be, but number two, to just stay awake and keep all the blood up in your head where it belongs. There's a lot of physical demands to the job.
Take it in.
Blue Angel pilots have trained to handle G-forces in the fleet. They also have a key piece of equipment available when flying a combat jet, one they must do without to fly the demo. It's called a G-suit.
G-suit is made of these air bladders from your abdomen all the way down to your ankles. And when you put G on the airplane, the aircraft senses that, and it inflates those, squeezes your lower extremities, and helps force that blood back up into your head and your upper body so that you can maintain, first, your sight, and second, your consciousness. By having those bladders on your leg, though, inflating and deflating, it just moves your hand around enough that you can't fly this kind of formation with this bladder underneath your wrist going up and down. We do this every day, so we can build up the appropriate tolerance to be able to deal with the Gs without it.
The transition to not wearing a G-suit, I think, is eye-opening for a lot of pilots. It was certainly eye-opening for me, being a flight surgeon in a jet squadron that used the G-suit and then going to a squadron that didn't.
For safety, Navy regs require that pilots who fly without a G-suit get a waiver and undergo specialized training. The reason is to avoid blacking out, or G-lock, gravity-induced loss of consciousness.
A G-lock poses the single greatest threat to a pilot flying an our demo because ultimately it results in incapacitation and maybe even a crash. What we do is go to the centrifuge for what's called GTIP, the G-Tolerance Improvement Program.
The centrifuge is located at the Naval Air Station in Lemoore, California. Blue Angel pilots must go there for 2 days of training every year to get certified to fly without a G-suit.
I'm going to have you sit here, sir. I'm going to take a look at your AGSM. Okay.
But the training is required of all naval aviators.
You can hear the commands: legs, breath, you're on top, breathe.
This fleet pilot is learning the proper method for breathing in high G situations. It's called the Hick technique.
What the pilots will actually do is they will say the word hook, and on the K, they will close off their airway, their glottis, and they will bear down, and they will do that every 3 seconds.
The training also involves flying a simulated mission where the pilot must lock onto a bogey and track it through some heavy G-inducing maneuvers.
There we go, full backstick deflection, we're at 8 Gs.
Now, armed with a mission, the pilot's ready for the ultimate simulation. Inside the gondola, the pilot is monitored by technicians in a nearby control room.
All interlocks are green at this time.
When the centrifuge starts spinning, the G-forces start mounting on the pilot's body.
Lights on, sir. Get a good prep and pull the stick.
He now has to track and lock on to the Bandit, experiencing as much as 8 Gs, all while also performing the Hick technique to avoid blacking out.
Stick back. Keep it in, keep it in. Breathe. Breathe. 2, 3. Lights on, sir. Get a good prep and bury the stick all the way back against the seat. Keep it in, bury that stick, back, breathe. 2. Get him in the middle, sir. Hold it off, sir. Lock it up. Seal it off, sir. Breathe. Coming down this time, pull him down.
A pilot's success in the centrifuge is defined not by avoiding G-lock, but by mastering the Hick technique, maintaining blood flow to the brain. The training session can last up to 30 minutes. Blue Angel pilots fly their 40-minute demo day in and day out and endure as much, if not more, physiological stress as their counterparts in the fleet.
The maneuvers that have the highest G, I think, are what we call the breakout maneuvers. First of all, with the Diamond, anytime you see the Diamond, the airplanes break apart, the next thing they have to do is rendezvous. So anytime the airplanes are rendezvousing, you will add a lot of G. And then solos experience a lot of G when they're in what they call their timing patterns. They're making very aggressive 7.5 G turns. So that's probably the biggest physiologic concern that faces the pilots when they're flying in the demo.
But the demo is not only about what happens in the air. Together, a team of officers and enlisted men and women serve in 15 departments to keep the Blue Angel demo up and running.
It's a lot of hard work that people don't see behind the scenes.
Richard Keene was a Blue Angels crew chief in the late 60s. He knows how crucial the maintenance team is to a successful demo.
In the entire history of the Blue Angels, they have never canceled a show due to maintenance. That's a pretty awesome feat. It takes getting out to the airstrip hours before the show opens, before the public comes in. We have to make sure that everything is as humanly perfect as we can get it.
If you think NASCAR is cool, these guys, they'll do a job that takes hours in the fleet, and these guys are on top of it. Quality assurance is impeccable. Everybody here who does their job is impeccable, and they do it with class, style, and an attitude that is just what we need here at the Blue Angels.
It's probably the most important thing that's different about this team from a regular fleet squadron is that we don't pre-flight the airplane. The crew chief goes out there in the morning, and he literally does all the things that it takes a guy in the fleet 20 or 25 minutes to do before he takes off in that airplane.
Blue Angel team members don't just work behind the scenes, they're a visible part of each demo. Well-trained and highly coordinated, their pre-flight groundwork is a prelude to the precision aerial maneuvers to come.
This degree of precision has become a trademark of the Blue Angels since first established 58 years ago.
Likewise, the squadron's C-130 support aircraft plays a key role.
Wait, Angel Niner, wind 230 at 8, runway 24, clear for takeoff.
This combination flying toolbox and transport plane has carried Blue Angel team members and equipment to air show sites since 1970. Nicknamed Fat Albert, it takes center stage at the start of each demo, performing a jet-assisted takeoff, or JATO, that highlights its short-field takeoff capability. 8 solid-fuel rockets help propel the plane skyward in half the length of runway it usually needs, and in half the time. For the Marine pilots at Fat Albert's controls, it's a thrill being part of the show.
Nothing beats the demo. I'll be honest with you. To be able to fly 100 feet above the ground at 310 knots, to be able to put this aircraft at 45 degrees nose up and fire the JATO bottles off is a rush, and it is something that very few people get a chance to do. And it never, ever gets old. It is quite the experience.
Yet for one Blue Angel team member, that experience may have come to an unexpected end. After a month being grounded for a severe cold that brought on dizziness and exhaustion, Major Dan Shipley's condition has not improved. During that time, hoping for a quick recovery, the team flew a 5-man demo without him in the number 3 jet. Shipley, meanwhile, returned to the training center at Lemoore to test his G tolerance in the centrifuge.
Ultimately, I think what it revealed was that Knuckles didn't have the physiologic reserve to handle high Gs without the G suit that some other pilots might have.
This was not the outcome anyone expected. Major Shipley realized a decision had to be made about how long the team could go without him.
I trusted the team, and I trusted this would be a team decision, and we'd all be together looking out for me. So I gave it to them that I'm having a tough time, I'm sick, what should we do?
I think we got to a point where we just, enough time had gone by and Knuckles still wasn't feeling quite himself, that I think what we found is that you couldn't get there from where we were. It was one of the most difficult things I've ever done, was make the recommendation that he may have an ongoing issue that would interfere with his ability to fly in a blue jet.
Flight Surgeon Mullen's recommendation provided the medical rationale. Yet in deciding to replace Major Shipley, Boss Bartlett knew he was putting an end to a fellow pilot's dream.
It was the most gut-wrenching decision that I've ever had to make in my career. But we didn't want to do it. We had to do it. You know, we didn't have any choice. But it was difficult. We wanted Knuckles on the team. It was tough.
The team is, as you know, a very fast-moving business where we got to keep going, we got to get the show going, there's no delays, and unfortunately there just wasn't enough time for me to get back in the game. You know, it opened my eyes to, man, I never expected this to come so quick, especially after all the time I took to rush, and then got picked on that team, and all of a sudden, wow, it ended that quick, and that was hard.
The abrupt turn of events took one member of the team by surprise.
I thought this was just a temporary thing, so it was very difficult when they were telling him, and they said, does anybody want to say anything? And I just couldn't speak. He's my best friend on the team, and it was just hard to even kind of let that take effect. This is a life change for him. It's something that he's always dreamed of, as we all have. He's a great pilot, and for him to leave like this, it really, it makes me feel like, I should be the one leaving, because Knuckles deserves to be here more than I do.
Boss Bartlett was not through making decisions. Now, he would have to fill the number 3 pilot's spot in the demo, and quickly.
You don't have spare pilots on this team. All we have is the pool of people who have left the team in recent years. You can't just take a new guy from the fleet and train him up. You have to take someone who's already been a Blue Angel, completed his time here, and has gone back to the fleet, and recall him.
Within a few days, the team decided the best candidate to replace Major Shipley in the demo was one who had just left the team at the end of last season.
Got the family trucks, you're loaded up.
Lieutenant Commander Jerry Darren had flown the number 3 jet 2 years earlier and was last year's slot pilot.
Lieutenant Commander Jerry Darren.
JD was the best choice for us, the best fit. We thought that, you know, he's the right personality, he's the right guy for the job. He's recently left, so his skills are going to be the sharpest. His squadron was able to let him go. He wanted to come back, you know, when he knew we had a problem, and he was on board.
Darren was so eager to help the team, he drove non-stop from California to Pensacola to get started.
Okay.
Coming back meant that, along with relearning to fly the number 3 jet, Darren would have to fit into an existing team structure.
Just want to say thanks to everybody for the support, bringing me back. It's awesome to be here, especially after being back in the fleet for a while. You know, it kind of recages your mindset. And Boss and I had a good chat yesterday about you know, the dynamics here and the fact that, you know, last year I traded varmint, and now this year, you know, you're here beating me over the head.
When you are away from the team, even when you leave the team for just a week or two, you come back and things have changed. You know, you feel that you're, you know, a little bit behind the power curve as far as what the team is doing and just staying in the current groove or the current atmosphere of the team. It changes throughout the year. It takes a little while to kind of get back into the group.
Losing Major Shipley was a blow to more than just the squadron pilots. Maintenance and support team members offered their own parting tribute to an officer they considered a friend.
We're all gathered here today to say thank you. We will take you with us everywhere we go, because once a Blue Angel, always a Blue Angel.
A Blue Angel helmet is usually reserved for pilots leaving after their 2-year tour. Major Shipley's stay of 7 months had clearly made an impact.
Best things for me, no doubt, were the friendships in the team. I made some very close friends and just had a great time. You know, and it was a thrill to be part of this team. I've always dreamt of doing it. I had such a great time, and I enjoyed meeting people and really talking to the kids, which is one of the biggest reasons I joined the team. And yeah, I miss that.
Even in disappointment, Dan Shipley shows the discipline and grace that defines what the Blue Angel team represents.
It's frustrating 'cause it's a dream, which quite frankly is probably the hardest thing for me right now to deal with. It's stopped. And it's gone, but then at the same time, you can look at it a great way that, hey, this was a smart thing to do. I stopped it, and you know, I'm alive, I'm here today to talk about it, which is great, and other people are too. This is a tough thing, but quite frankly, it's just a speed bump in my life. It's just a speed bump in my career, and things go on.
Things will go on for the squadron too. Jerry Darren is working to regain the strength and skill to fly the demo in the number 3 jet.
So the flying aspect will be a challenge. I still feel like there's room for improvement. So I'm looking forward to tightening up the demo, tightening up the squadron, and just really making the Blue Angels the best squadron that we can be.
With a new number 3 pilot on board, there's little time to waste. The team has an air show scheduled in 2 days. It will be the first time in over a month they'll fly the demo as a full squadron. They each know the maneuvers and the focus needed to make the greatest show on Earth and the air a success. Now, they'll have 24 weekends left to become the best squadron they can be.
Next on the Military Channel, the Blue Angels take it on the road as they move from city to city and closer to the perfect show. Blue Angels, a year in the life, next on the Military Channel.